having sugar is like basically saying, I want to do cocaine sometime. They started eating sprouts and they were completely recovered afterwards. No cancer.
Outrageous. That is, I'm sorry, but when
I've seen it with my own eyes, but you're okay seeing morbidly obese people on the front covers of magazines. You're okay seeing them all over Target. Like, you think this is something we should keep promoting?
Showing is not promoting. You don't know how to interpret research. You don't know how.
Anyone can read research, though. Anyone can look at anyone can read research. You know, anyone can read a paper, which also means that anyone can physically read a research too. Babies aren't born 400 pounds. Do you agree with that? Welcome to the Step It Up podcast. Today we are with Susana Ritchey, a dietitian. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found me.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. Again, Susana Ritchey. I'm a registered dietitian. I mostly work in pediatrics. I do work with some adults. I kind of split my time between working in a clinic with some like genetic metabolic disorders and then working in a pediatrician's office doing some more like typical kids things, preventative nutrition and stuff like that. I also spend a lot of time on social media. I like controversial topics. I like health policy. I've been pretty fascinated by the rise of the MAHA movement, which is why when I saw your picture wasn't there, but I saw the MAHA girls on CNN or a couple places. I mean, you were featured a couple places, I think. And there had also been a New York Times article like a month before called The Rise of the Crunchy Teen Wellness Influencer. And I find these interesting because when I was a teenager, I would have probably like aligned really closely, and not just teenager, like young 20s and stuff. So I like kind of resonate, like it reminds me of myself a little bit. So then I looked at the MAHA Girls account, and there are a couple different contributors. I noticed your content because you had a personal story. And I noticed that you focused a little bit more on like health behaviors, whereas some of the other content is more about like product swaps. But you also had a couple clips that were very provocative and easy to like comment on.
Sure. Yeah. Amazing. Well, let me just start by saying, well, me and Grace Price founded MAHA Girls. We met in Arizona and we were like, we need to start a place where we can help girls with actionable tips they can just take every day because social media is really confusing. There's so much knowledge on there. And we were like, a lot of adults talk about health, but there are no like young girls helping out young girls who are just in transition, you know, just getting out of high school and college. They don't know what to cook. They don't know how to cook in their dorm. And we're like, we just need to create a centralized hub where we can just inspire girls and help them become healthier because we're in a metabolic crisis, as you know. And so that's why we started MAHA Girls. And then they did that article. They went to like an event and they did that. And I wasn't part of it. I was invited to be a part of it, but I wasn't able to be at the event. And yeah, so I saw your reaction and I thought it was so interesting. I'll link it in the description so that the audience can understand what we're talking about. But yeah, so I thought we could just dive in with that video and kind of talk about like your comment and like what you thought about it. I watched all the responses to it, but it's super interesting to me when people comment on these videos because I love it. I love what I do. My mom and we help women lose weight naturally. And so that's like how it came about after me losing 160 pounds naturally. So yes.
A ton of weight, and obviously like experience is really important and sharing what worked for you is important. And I didn't realize at the time that your mom has a master's in nutrition and I saw she Top Chef. Is that right?
She was on Master Chef
Master Chef. Okay, that's wild.
Top Chef. No, that's funny. No, yeah, she was. And I remember being really little. I was like sitting on these boxes and she was in Master Chef. So that was crazy. She made it almost to the final round.
That's wild. I'm going to have to go watch that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have experience, but then also I think that like collaborating with your mom, you have some like expertise there too. Obviously I reacted because I do have some like a little bit of pushback
Oh yeah, go for it. I'm all about pushback, by the way. I'm all about like diving into the uncomfortable conversations the public isn't willing to have. So let's just go right in. Go
Yeah,
for
yeah.
it.
So I feel like sometimes, well, obviously, I think the one thing I started off with my video is obesity. You said obesity is a choice. And the first thing I said is it's probably not one single choice. It's probably hundreds of choices. And I'm guessing that's not some, I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would say that obesity is a choice. Yeah, I would definitely be strongly agree with that. I saw some of your comments on like maybe you don't have the privilege,
Right.
or you don't have and I'm like, well, you do control your arm, you control how much you put in your mouth. I mean, we all do. And even if children are, in homes, I think that's like a very rare story where, someone's force feeding the child food. But even like then, that's a very rare case, right? Most of America does choose to be obese. And children, you know, and their parents force feeding them, that's not a normal case, I would say. So
So I think there are like hundreds of factors that play into it. And some of them are things that we choose and some are things that we don't. For instance, I probably could have had the same diet as you as a teenager and I probably wouldn't have gained the same amount of weight. Like I don't know why, but like I've had a privilege of not really having to be as cognizant, especially like when I was younger. And I see that in clinic, you'll have two siblings and they'll have the same diet and their bodies kind of react differently. Um, so we have our genetic predispositions. Obviously, I don't want to disempower people by talking about genetics because there's so many ways you can impact your health. But I also want to acknowledge that there are differences and it is harder for some people. I watched one of your mom's previous podcasts and she said, if I look at a bagel, I gain weight. And like, I can look at a bagel, nothing happens, you know?
yeah, well, I know what she means. I think people definitely have different gut microbiomes, and there's so much research coming out right now about gut microbiome and how that affects the body. I would say that there are definitely people who can eat anything they want and not gain weight. But then again, I'm saying like these 400-pound people, these 500-pound people, they do control like what they put in their mouth, and them being obese is a choice. Even if they have mental health issues, I also think a lot of mental health issues are chosen. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole to get into. But my claim in this video was babies aren't born 400 pounds. Do you agree with that?
I believe that babies, well, obviously, they are not born 400 pounds, but they can be born with predisposition, with all kinds of like predispositions for elevated weight. And their early life exposures that they have no control over can make it more difficult for them to manage weight later on. I think I talked about the first thing, just gut health is a big deal. And so much the critical window for like developing our gut health is really early in life. And it's not to say that there aren't things you can't do later on, but those first couple of years are so important and it could set the stage for a lot of challenges later in life. And some of those things we don't have control over, like having a C-section. There's obviously like a lot of nuance there. There could be, maybe we could reduce the rates of C-section, but like my mom, for instance, I was a C-section and she would have just died in childbirth had that not. So like sometimes you don't have a choice and that can lead to, one different, kind of a consequence. And it's not any single consequence that is going to impact our weight. I think it's just like layers and layers and layers of different things going
I mean,
on.
I think I might challenge you on that because I mean, wouldn't you say the one thing that people do that makes them gain weight is eat more food than necessary, right? Thermodynamics. So I
Right,
mean, that would be one thing, like what you eat, right?
but why are you eating?
Well,
Right?
sure,
Like,
but
and
yeah.
why does Ozempic work? Ozempic works
Oh,
because of a certain hormone.
Ozempic is a big discussion. Wow. Okay, well, let me just ask you, what do you think about Ozempic for children?
Oh goodness. I I don't, I honestly don't haven't seen it. happen. I think
It's
it's
happening though.
it is happening. It would be in a different like clinic like than the one I work in, and it's hard for me to. I'm sure I have blind spots, and my opinion is kind of incomplete. I think it's really sad that we are like sort of at this point. Sometimes it does feel really helpless though. Like you'll see this child and there's so many, it just feels impossible that their diet's going to change. It feels like nothing is going to get better. And it's like, I don't know, it's a really hard situation. It makes me feel I hate the Hollywoodification of Ozempic, but I also hesitate to stigmatize a medication. And I think that like the person, I don't know, I would probably defer to endocrinologists, child psych. Like I just feel like there are better people than me to answer that question.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about Ozempic in children, especially the fact that they're testing 6-year-olds. Just seems like torture and child abuse to me, especially with the side effects that they're getting, like gallbladder disease. They're throwing up. I mean, I can't even imagine like 6-year-olds throwing up every day. Like that just makes my heart so
Well, and
sad.
they wouldn't continue if there were like horrific side effects. But I think the reason they would choose to do it is because the situation they're in is already so difficult.
I mean, Ozempic prescriptions are up for teens 400%, and they're using it as a first line of defense now, which is just horrifying. Like, why would a doctor just straight out be like, you need Ozempic as a child when we know there are so many other routes to go way before you even consider Ozempic, especially for a prepubescent child. It's really concerning, some of the things I'm researching right now behind the scenes, and I'm just mortified that
Where
humans think it's okay to do this.
Well, where are you getting that information? Because clinically speaking,
There's
I've
just
never seen a doctor. I wouldn't. I've never seen a doctor who would rush into that kind of decision and not try to discuss other avenues first.
unfortunately there was an article, and I believe it was Rutro, speaking about how a doctor named Lee Kaplan, that might not be how you pronounce his name, he earned $1.4 million to prescribe this Ozempic drug to many, many, many children. And then there were some other doctors that were paid up 100,000 or more to start prescribing these drugs to children. And in a study done in the JAMA Pediatrics of 2024 showed that teens' prescriptions for Ozempic were up 400% since 2020 for teens.
And I can definitely believe that they're up. One thing that we should absolutely like pause on is Ozempic is different than Wegovy. It's a specific GLP-1 that is used specifically for diabetes. It is not used for obesity. That would be Wegovy or something else. So if they're using Ozempic, it is for the management of diabetes. Whereas with adults, we might see them being used off label. I'm not sure how common that is in children. But we also have to consider like what are they using it for, and at what we have to manage diabetes, and like we can't just trust that these families are going to take nutrition and exercise recommendations, because I'll tell you right now, they don't. You
And I also tell you that what they're not doing is they're taking the drugs and still feeding them the same crap, which is still going to cause a lot of problems down the road. So that's also an issue I see, and I'm not sure what that solution would look like. But
Right.
either way, it's still
That's
like a
true.
concern
No,
for
and
sure.
I agree, that's really like not ideal. We don't, the food itself, like, and that's where like you can be thin and unhealthy at the same time.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. All right. So diving into, just curious on your thoughts. Do you think like obese people are beautiful to look at?
I think that's so subjective. I know beautiful obese people, but I don't, my, like, I'm a dietitian. I talk about health. I don't talk about vanity. Um, and I think that what I find beautiful is based on the things that it's based on societal norms, things I've been told as my entire life. And I did think it was fascinating, I will say, that for you, this body positive movement had somewhat been like successful, and you did feel comfortable in your own skin and confident, and you, because like I don't know anyone, I'm what, 10 years older than you, I don't know anyone in my generation who like doesn't feel the shame of weight. So it is an interesting like I was surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of like older people, not that you're old, but a lot of people who are not my age would say like, I can't believe that. That's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it really happened because, it's taboo to tell people they're overweight. It's taboo to say they're fat. And I remember going to the doctor and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're fine. Just eat some more bread." And I was 320 pounds. I clearly did not need more bread. And they just didn't say anything was wrong with me. I had 3 different therapists and they were having junk food at the therapy groups, and the therapist didn't help me. They were like, "You're fine. All foods are good." And that just damaged me so bad because they told me I was beautiful. And I was like confused because I'm like 15 and I don't know what to believe. And I got social media showing me morbidly obese models and that are saying it's okay to be obese, that it's healthy, that it's beautiful. And I'm just believing it. And I even see registered dietitians online being like, you can eat whatever you want. All foods are good. There's no bad foods. And we can dive into that. But it's just like that I really believe
So I
that. And so
think the
I took
argument there, so there's a huge spectrum of like what is on social media, and there are extremes that are ridiculous. Like obviously on both ends of the spectrum, like they're just blatantly ridiculous claims. But I think the dietitians you're talking about are going to be dietitians in sort of the um, food freedom, intuitive eating um, spaces where they want to see more neutrality around food. And are they're working with a lot of people who have previously had eating disorders or people with orthorexia, people who are hyper focused on their diets. And unfortunately, like we don't have target audiences on social media. Like it goes, your videos go to everyone. So there are people who need to focus, who need to like have more nutrition scrutiny. They need to pay attention to what they're eating more. And then there are people who need to like chill and like calm down a little bit. And all these dietitians who are saying, first of all, I've never in my life seen a dietitian say, eat whatever you want. It has no impact, because that is not true. But I do see dietitians who say all foods can fit and like eat in moderation. And I think that's because a lot of people become scared of food or they become orthorexic. And it can be very, very harmful. So it sounds like potentially you were hearing a message that maybe wasn't for you, you know?
Yeah, and I
Um,
think the hard thing is I was, 15. So 15-year-old girls are very vulnerable to media and they just believe what they see, which is kind of like the dangers of social media. And I just remember binge eating in my room and I was just eating junk food, watching these morbidly obese girls, flaunt their bellies. And I was like, okay, I'm cute and I'm fat and I'm cute, even though I can't walk up the steps and I suffer from PCOS and depression and anxiety, which I don't suffer from anymore. I did back then. And that was a very lonely time thinking back to how many girls today suffer from this false narrative that being obese is healthy and beautiful and that it somehow could be okay, which it's not. I even remember going to the doctor and like they didn't have to weigh me anymore because if they weighed me, that would be considered fat phobic. And that's a real thing that some people experience today. I've
so,
seen videos too about that.
yeah. So here's my thing. My goal is to provide a nutrition intervention while doing the least amount of harm because we have had decades of shaming women for their bodies, decades and decades of people trying different things to lose weight. And we've seen side effects, right? Like maybe people did lose weight, but then there were like unintended consequences. So now I think we're getting a little bit smarter. We're saying, how can we have our intended effect and less of those unintended effects? And that's why I generally, particularly working in pediatrics, use a weight neutral approach. And that's where, like, I mean, I'm not going to bury my head in the sand. Like, I am going to, if the family brings it up, we'll talk about it. But I'm going to talk about health behaviors. I'm going to talk about moving more and eating more nutrient dense foods because you can't, that's what you're, those are the behaviors that you're choosing.
So, a morbidly obese kid will come to you, and how are you helping them not stay obese?
To be honest, I don't, if so many of the kids I see have so few resources and so they're facing so many barriers that I help them, but I really don't actually think I'm making a difference. Like, and that's really sad. Um, but I think that nutrition interventions only hit when people aren't when people have enough privilege to hear it, you know? So it depends. Like I saw a 6-year-old who weighed more than me this week. Like
Wow.
what do you do? And they were facing all of these socioeconomic barriers. And it's like my to me, I'm trivial. Like the nutrition stuff that I'm about, it's not their priority, even though like it's a huge deal. But
Mm.
they just are facing all of these other things. So I feel ineffective. Meanwhile, when I talk to people who come to me and like are motivated and are seeking help, and if they are like morbidly obese, I would still say like focus on the actual behaviors that you want to change. So, how much are you walking right now? Are you completely sedentary? Are you getting 5,000 steps? Can we set a small goal? Your mom mentioned habit stacking in a video, and I love that. That's absolutely something I would try to use.
100%. Yeah, that's why we call it step it up, because we're like, just take it one step at a time. That's yeah, literally. I love that you do that. I love that you do help them. I get what you mean, because I was actually with Alex Clark and Grace Price and Callie Means at the Arizona Senate testifying to ban processed food from school lunch. And unfortunately, it didn't go through, but it almost went through, to kind of help these people, because, I was a child in school and they fed me ultra processed foods. And that was a big part of how I got so overweight so fast. And, I hear a lot of these children who don't have the resources at home. Most of these children get their food at school. And so
Right.
that's really where we can start making a difference, I believe,
But
especially with
this
children.
is, yeah, absolutely. A lot of states feed kids 2 meals a day, which is a huge opportunity. A lot of the kids I work with don't even eat at school because they find it so like gross that then they
Mm,
like wait and then they binge eat when they get home. But
mm.
here's the thing, we just cut funding. We cut $2 billion in funding to connect school lunches with local farmers. Why? How is that making America healthy again? Like, I have
You
the
know,
same goals as you, but why is that the policy decision?
I don't know much about this new policy you're speaking of, so I can't really speak on that. But that's interesting. I'm also not sure in which context that's in, because I know that Maha's doing a lot of good things for schools, including having them grow more food, possibly at schools. So
How
lots
are
of
they
new
having them
initiatives
do
happening
that?
there.
Like,
Well,
how are
it's all, it's not there are a lot of things that aren't happening yet. So I'm not super in that realm. I'm really in the weight loss realm, helping women on the ground every day lose weight. I am not like super in like passing bills, but I do help testify when I can in
well,
states
so
that I can.
your platform is political. You're a
It's
Maha girl.
actually not. Health is not political, which is interesting that you're talking about it.
Health is one of the most political things. Every single policy, it doesn't have to be partisan, but it is political because we
What's
see.
political about being healthy?
Okay, so basically, your socioeconomic status plays a huge impact in whether you are unhealthy or not. Um, there's like that's a loaded question because everything we do in life is related to policy. Your education is related to your health, and we've gotten rid of the Department of Education.
Oh yeah,
Um,
because well, the Department of Education didn't teach me how to cook, didn't teach me how to grow, didn't teach me how to sew. They didn't teach me how to do anything. Actually, I actually learned nothing in school. Truthfully, when I was homeschooled, I learned a lot, but in school, didn't learn anything. So there's a pretty good reason for that. But again, I don't
so
think
it
health
just
is political. There's nothing political about taking a walk. There's nothing political about gardening and cooking at home. I don't see what's political about eating whole
well, what if you
foods.
don't have a safe place to walk? Where are you going
That's
to
a
walk?
rare case, but you can even
No,
walk inside your
no.
house. You can do squats inside your house. You can walk in your house. You can walk in your room. You can do a jumping jacks in your room. You can do dance parties in the kitchen. I mean, there's a lot of options.
I'm
There's no
from
excuse.
I'm from I'm very privileged. I did not know how common this is. This is the exception, and it's people who struggle to have access to safe places to play. They're the people they're the statistics you're using. You're talking about 1 in 2 kids having a chronic disease. You're using the statistics of people who are poor, people who you're pretending don't exist. And they're the ones who need our support. And WIC, we just annihilated funding for fresh fruits and vegetables. And I know you're not interested in that, but that's what you're politically supporting.
I'm not in politics. I'm in let's walk, let's eat whole foods, let's get hydrated, let's do what we can where we can. That's what I'm about. But let's just move on to not political conversation. What do you think about plus size models?
People are buying plus size clothing. They deserve to see what those clothes are going to look like on them.
Do you think that like having plus size models on the front cover of Vogue and Miss Alabama winning, do you think these things are okay and that we should be celebrating obesity in the ways that we are today?
I think that we should represent different body sizes. I don't think that body sizes are moral. I think that we should promote health without worrying so much about vanity.
But is it promoting health to show a 400 or 500-pound woman on the front cover of a magazine?
That's a pretty rare situation. Maybe I've seen Lizzo, who is like there for, she's a musician, and she's not a worse musician because she's in a larger body. So here's the thing. Weight stigma doesn't help anyone. Weight stigma actually leads to worse health outcomes. It leads to increased weight gain. So I get your thought process, but when we actually look at what the research shows, shaming people isn't moving the needle.
Well, actually, it's not about shaming. I think saying that someone's 400 pounds isn't shaming them. It's actually stating a fact that the society is afraid to talk about now. And so much that we're so afraid to talk about 400-pound women. We're putting them on the front covers of Vogue instead of helping them lose weight, which is quite concerning. I don't really want to look at fat people at the front cover of every magazine, or every time I go into Target, it's like only fat people on the walls now. I'm like really confused. What happened to thin models? It's not that it's hard for me. It's more hard for everyone in the world who now thinks it's okay to be obese, and obesity rates are only rising. And what you see matters. And if you're seeing obese people everywhere and on the front covers of magazines, that's being accepted in society. Back in the day, we didn't have as many fat people. So I'm curious what your take is on that.
It's obviously a loaded question.
Do you like seeing fat people? Do you think we should keep promoting being obese everywhere you go?
I don't necessarily think that representation is promotion. People exist, and that's just how it is. It doesn't mean.
But you're in health. You're a registered dietitian, and you think it's a good thing to have fat people represented and like shown everywhere.
Yes, I think that people should be included, and I think that we can promote health without stigmatizing bodies, because some of these things truly aren't as simplistic as they seem, and people, no matter what we do, are going to exist in different bodies. And you're talking about morbid obesity, and obviously there is a spectrum of situations.
Right. But we know that scientifically being overweight is not healthy, right? You agree with that?
Yes. When we're talking about 400, 500 pounds, certainly.
Well, even 60 pounds overweight, even 80 pounds overweight is not, you don't have to be 400 pounds.
Not to be nitpicky, but I think it's about body composition, not necessarily about weight. So if you have a lot of lean body mass, obviously that's different than the way your body is built. Brown adipose tissue is more advantageous than white, right? Muscle tissue is going to be heavier than fat. So weight is like a proxy.
So, but we agree that being overweight and being morbidly obese are both unhealthy things.
I think generally speaking, they're associated with poor health outcomes.
Okay. But you're okay seeing morbidly obese people on the front covers of magazines. You're okay seeing them all over Target. You think this is something we should keep promoting?
Showing is not promoting. People exist. That's just what it is. These people exist.
What does promotion mean to you? Because I would say if they're on the walls of Target, that is promoting their target's clothing, it is, because that's how ads work. That's how
So
pictures in stores work.
if we're looking at like what causes obesity, that's not it.
Actually, that's actually not true. I mean, when you're a young girl like I was, you're very vulnerable to what you see. And a lot of young girls see morbidly obese women not only in Target, but they see them online, and then they think it's okay. So that's how this whole body positive got turned around, because body positivity originated for people who didn't have limbs, who were born without arms, without legs, or who were in the war and lost their leg, or don't have an eye. It wasn't made for people who chose to become morbidly obese, who chose to eat more chips and pizza and french fries and now look like they're 400 pounds. That is not what body positivity was made for, but that's what they celebrate now.
And to be clear, I'm not necessarily part of the body positivity movement.
Right, but you're
I
saying that's showing, yeah.
I just think that we need to look at the things that really, really impact health and weight. And I think that so many of those things are societal and they're political. We can only the reason they've changed is because of like we can only if we want to move the needle, we have to have policy. Otherwise, because you can't expect that everyone is going to all of a sudden have like this crazy amount of motivation to like move and exercise if we don't change things.
I don't even know if it's really motivation. Like for me, when I was on my journey to lose weight, it wasn't about motivation. It was about, just feeling better. I think that motivation doesn't last that long. I
Yeah,
think willpower also doesn't last that long. I think that the
totally.
way you make change is by truly enjoying that process. And even though it's challenging, I think there is joy that can be found inside of it. I do believe that.
I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, totally. Um, that is the problem with, but I think that's also the problem with using shame as a motivator is it's this transient feeling where people make these decisions to start fad diets and to do things that aren't sustainable
No,
because
I'm
they're
against fad
hurting.
diets. Yeah, 100%. I'm against those because I tried those. I tried the fad diets. They didn't work.
Yeah.
I've tried all that stuff. It doesn't work. Lifestyle is what works. I agree.
So it sounds like you were trying to get thinner.
Eventually. So this is what happened. So I was really, really body positive, up until 320 pounds. And then I had to, COVID hit and I was stuck inside my house for a long time and I had to see myself every day. And one day I looked in the mirror. I finally realized, wow, I can't walk up the steps. I don't sleep anymore. Like I'm up 2 hours. I have PCOS, I have depression, anxiety. And I looked in the mirror and I said, I don't recognize myself anymore. And I feel so horrible. I think it's time to do something about it. So it took me time though. It took me 2 years binge eating, 160 pounds put on my body for me to realize myself. No one really, my mom, she told me, and my dad, but really no one else in my life. Like my friends, they fed me junk food. So it took me a long time to realize. Too long, I think, but I'm glad it happens younger than older. Because I could be 700 pounds, I could be 400 pounds sitting here, and I'm so glad I'm not. So that's what happened, and then every day I made my favorite junk food order that I would always get. I'd always get Burger King. I just made that at home. And that's how I started losing the weight. I just used whole food ingredients to make my favorite junk food. And that's what I and my mom help women do every day. We show them how to make amazing food because we weren't taught how to cook in school. And a lot of people don't know how to cook.
Yeah, I that's a huge, huge, huge problem. Definitely one of the things that I see that is like the most distressing is people, parents, kids, none of them know how to cook, but also the time. I'm not everyone can shift around their life and prioritize things, right? So when some people say they don't have time, they could make time. They could choose to have time. For other people, they genuinely don't have time. And that's because the cost of living is really high. People work multiple jobs, they have a lot of children, and so convenience becomes a priority, which obviously has a lot of consequences. So how can we make it so that people have more time to spend on cooking and taking care of themselves?
It doesn't take that long to cook a meal. It doesn't take that long to make your food at home. There is that like whole like thing out there that's like it takes forever to cook, but it can take 30 minutes. I mean, literally putting a head of cabbage in a pot, boiling it can take like I don't know, 10 minutes. So, I mean, it's really like my mom makes these meals with just whole foods and it takes her like 10, 15 minutes. And of course, you need the skills to learn how to do that. But like the world is our oyster. I always say there's no excuse to be fat in 2025 because you have YouTube, we have ChatGPT, we have all these resources to learn how to cook and how to make easy meals. You can even go on ChatGPT and say, "How can I grow basil in my kitchen?" You can
Right.
grow sprouts in a jar for like next to nothing,
Right.
cost wise. So there's so many resources out there
But
now.
but you're thinking about what people have, but what about like the barriers that they're facing? And like it takes a lot of time, energy, and attention to do those things. And time poverty is it's a huge reason why individuals who face poverty, they have less time to take care of themselves because they're spending more of their times trying to survive, trying to get to a stable place. And so like for me, when I say it takes a long time to cook, it's like because gosh, I'm trying to plan, I'm trying to um, grocery shop, I'm prepping, cleaning up. It's a lot of effort. Um, it's worth it. But if I were facing like a ton of barriers, I can see how it could become impossible, like almost impossible.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree. I hear a lot of I've heard a lot of people in the past too. They're really overweight and they have time to go to McDonald's, they have time to go to Burger King, they have time to get junk food, they have time and money to buy junk food, but they don't have time and money to buy a head of cabbage, which is literally cheaper than a Burger King meal. So it's just like some people's logic don't make sense to me.
Well, are you
I
just going to eat a head of cabbage?
No, you just boil it in water. I mean,
And
everyone,
that's your
a
meal.
lot of people do have a stove. So, there's a lot of like excuses people make just because they're lazy and don't want to actually try. There's a very small portion of people you're talking about, but the average American
No,
can go to the store and get cabbage.
they can afford the cabbage physically, right?
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about the time, energy, and attention. It's about the
I'd
fact
say
that
they have time. They usually have time.
I would argue that you don't know what you don't know because I
I
didn't
would
know
argue that
this.
you may not know what you don't know too.
I've been educated in this, and I'm sorry that sounds like a dick thing to say, but when I was 19, I wasn't, and the like
I'm actually not 19. I'm 20.
that's why dietitians have to go through like internships where we have to work in the hospital and we have to see the worst of the worst, and like that's important because I would never have understood the reality of the world. Like I just wouldn't have. Even though I academically have learned about poverty, I took poverty study. Like you think you get this stuff, but it's so bad. Like it's so hard.
It
What
is
people
hard.
are
It
facing.
is hard for people out there. I'm not discrediting that, but I do think it's possible. I think there's so much room for opportunity, and there's so much room for possibility to cook your food at your house, at your home. I think it's really possible. I think a lot of people make excuses, and I think it is possible. Um, but we can table that for now. I'm curious. When was the last time that you cooked your own meal at home?
Last night
Oh, what did you make?
I made like a sheet pan, onions, peppers, sausage, and then potatoes.
Interesting. Is that the only ingredients that were inside? Like what's like the recipe for our audience?
Just chopping up some like I do red, green pepper. I like those like Adele chicken and apple sausages, which one one could argue about processed meats. So not perfection, but I like to do a little Parmesan, um, like onion, red onion, and then just diced potatoes.
Cool. I think that's a pretty easy meal people could make. That seems pretty simple and pretty healthy. I think that's cool. That's good. Awesome. And you think we should start teaching people in school how to cook, which I think is awesome. What do you think about like women cooking? Like, are you for women cooking?
Yeah, I'm for everyone cooking. I don't think that it should. I mean, if I think however your family works best. In my circumstance, I will be cooking more than my husband, 100%. He's a great cook, though. He makes bread, um, definitely makes better steak than I do. But like, it's a choice, however you want your family to function. And I think we should teach boys to cook as well. Like, a lot of times they're living on their own until, they could be like, it shouldn't be a gender thing. It should just be a skill for everyone to have.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I think women are usually they can be better at cooking, sometimes opposite, but I think women enjoy cooking more. I could be wrong, but from the
I mean,
consensus I've gathered from my
most
friend
chefs are
circle,
men.
that is true. That is true. That is true. But there are a lot of women that love cooking, and they don't even know until they start doing it. So super interesting. Do you have any questions for me? And any other content you saw that you might have questions
Yeah.
about or statements?
I really think it's important to understand, like, I've seen you and your mom are worried about like toxins and like soil quality and pollution and stuff, but then like the policy is going in the opposite direction, and like we can't on an individual level control the air we breathe. I mean, I have two air purifiers in my room right now because my
I
husband has.
have air purifiers in my room too.
Right, like we can do those things, but like in general, like this is a global, this is like we have to like have policy in order to have clean air, food, and water. And I look, I like your goals. I do not like the Make America Healthy Again movement. I am terrified. I think that it is insidious and it is tricking people. And I implore you to just make sure that you understand like the policies that you are voting for and whether or not they actually align with what you want.
So I was at the HHS when they banned food dyes, and I thought that was a great thing. Did you think that was a great thing too?
Okay, so loaded question.
It's a loaded question
I
to
think
ask you if you think banning food dyes is good or bad.
I think it's fine and positive, but I think that it's being like overblown and it's performative. And like imagine all of the foods you ate when you were
They had a lot of
obese.
dyes in them for sure.
Yes. And what if there were no dyes? The same exact food, but no dyes. Would
Yeah, I'm
that?
sure they would still. Hey, I'm like, by the way, I'm totally against flour and sugar. I think they're evil. I know sugar is more addictive than cocaine. I also know there are two bodies of science that one says that you can have sugar and flour in moderation. And if you take it away, you'll feel depleted and you'll have food phobias and you'll be scared and that's bad. That did not work for me. That's just not, I just don't believe in it. To me, having sugar is like, basically saying I want to do cocaine sometimes, and I'm totally against that, especially knowing the science that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. I don't want it anywhere near me, and I'm not supporting any companies that are investing in it. So
Yeah, I
that's
think
my
sugar
stance.
is more complicated than food dyes because, for one thing, food dyes don't serve a nutritive purpose, which is why I don't care if they're there or not. I think that some positives are that people might eat less if it's not as visually attractive. So I think that's also potentially positive. Um, I think that there are a lot of like toxins that we're exposed to, like heavy metals, pollutants that we know are problematic. That's where I would like to see policy efforts being like the big thing, right? But when
Like
it's something,
glyphosate.
pesticides in general, I think that sometimes we get a little bit tunnel visioned when it comes to glyphosate because there are 100 or plus pesticides, and glyphosate, it's a tricky topic, but like we've actually reduced the overall like toxic burden of our food by implementing it. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I also think it might be better than some of the other things we've used. And so like there's so many trade-offs. But
Hmm.
absolutely, looking at regulations for pesticides, um, that would be more important to me than. And I don't mind like if it's a quick thing to get rid of food dyes, that's good. I just don't think it's moving the needle. Like
Okay.
I think it's neutral.
Do you have any overweight friends? Oh, you do. Okay. Do you ever help them lose weight? Do you ever say anything about their weight to them, or no?
Oh, sorry. No, I remember in college one of my friends asked me to help, and of course I was not qualified, and I did things then that I would not do now. But I think that it was not a positive thing. I don't think that it was good for our friendship. Um, I want my friends to feel like if they ask me nutrition questions, I'm happy to answer them. But also, I think they know that weight is not it's not the outcome that I'm focused on. I'm focused on health. Um, and so if they're asking me how to be healthier, I'm happy to like share things.
Do you ever enable their obesity by like eating junk food with them or telling them they're beautiful even though they are morbidly obese or overweight?
I mean, my friends who struggle with weight are beautiful. Like they genuinely are absolutely beautiful.
How could
Um,
being unhealthy be beautiful though?
because they are beautiful in so many ways. And honestly, like it's an assumption to say that they are healthy, like less healthy than some of my other friends who are thinner.
Well,
Like
earlier you
you
said
can
being
be
obese
thin.
was unhealthy. So are you now going back and saying that your friends are healthy even though they're overweight?
Well, overweight and obese are like different things, but also I'm saying that my thin friends can have equally poor habits. And I don't.
Sure.
So I'm treating my friends the same regardless of body size. And
So
I don't
you're
provide unsolicited nutrition advice.
I would say though that complimenting your friends when they're morbidly obese is enabling their behaviors because they're gonna because just like I was telling you, like if you were to tell me when I'm overweight that I'm beautiful, you're like telling me that should keep doing everything I'm doing because I'm perfectly gorgeous the way I am, which is a lie because I'm unhealthy inside.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to shame my friends. I'm not going to.
Well, no one says you have to shame them, but like you don't ever go for walks with them or kind of do healthier things with them to push
Of
them towards
course.
their. So you
But
do
it's
walk with your
no,
overweight
it's not.
friends.
I'm not intervening in my friends' lives. I'm doing things I do for myself with my friends. And a lot of my friends who are overweight have healthy behaviors. Like they do the same things as me, and we do those things together.
So what
And
do you do? Because you're very slim, so you might be able to eat a pizza and be fine. But if they eat that pizza, they're going to put on weight. So I mean, like,
totally,
what do you do with them?
totally. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't eat whole pizzas at this point in my life. I feel like all teenagers go through a stage where are ravenously hungry and could down a pizza.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I choose the foods that I'm comfortable eating. I don't judge other people's plates unless they're asking me to, unless they're my
Do
patient
they
or my
binge eat in
client.
front of you ever? Like, have you ever
I've
experienced
never,
that?
no, I don't
Okay.
think I have any friends who have a binge eating disorder to my knowledge, and people aren't upfront about that. So it's possible that people do, and I don't know. But
True, but I mean, like, do you ever? I mean, like, I would say eating ice cream with your overweight friends would kind of be like enabling their behaviors because sugar is really addictive. Do you ever do that?
well, it's addictive for my thin friends too.
Sure, but do you do that?
I eat ice cream with people regardless of body size.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting because you're a registered dietitian. So you're thinking like, you went to school, you're a registered dietitian, you know the science and everything, but you still eat ice cream and you still eat ice cream with your
I
thin
do.
and overweight friends, which is super, super interesting to me because I would never do that. Like myself, just knowing like what it's like to be obese, how painful it is, even being overweight, it's uncomfortable. And just knowing all the side effects of being overweight that it has on the body, it's just not something that I would ever like condone or influence. I would never want to give my friends pizza or eat ice cream in front of them. I would only do helpful things like walk, make salads, eat fruit, and just show them how like being healthy can be really fun, but not like telling them like they need to be healthy, but just being that example for them because it's the best thing that I can do to be a good friend and help them improve themselves because clearly
Yeah.
being overweight is a sign that you don't respect yourself because you're harming your body, and essentially when you're harming your body you don't respect yourself. So that's like my kind of opinion on it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think I just try to focus on the biggest ticket items. Like, what are like the biggest interventions we can do, what really matters. And I know that sharing an ice cream cone with a friend is not going to make or break our health. You know, that's part of life. Is food isn't just to like feed your body, it's also like a way that we connect with people. And what if you make, I mean, I'm all into making things from scratch. Like, I love making birthday cakes. I've made lots of wedding cakes. Like, to me, that's a part of life. And
Yeah, I bake sugar-free, gluten-free every day. Anything that the public has that they like give me any kind of baked good, I will make it sugar-free, gluten-free at home out of oats or buckwheat. It's like my favorite thing to do. But I can use allulose, I can use stevia, I can use monk fruit, and I show everyone how to do that in our program. And it's like you can still have your cake and eat it too, but it needs to be made of different things, especially for like former binge eaters and people who are overweight. You know, it's since sugar is more addictive than cocaine, there's no reason to take it at all. Like, I wouldn't be like, that's not a friendly thing to be like, here's a little bit of cocaine. Like, I would never do that. So I would never do it with sugar because it's worse than cocaine. So that's just like a no in my eyes.
yeah, but that's, look, I'm down to have a nuanced conversation about whether or not sugar is addictive, but sugar is not worse than cocaine. Like, that is just an objective inaccuracy.
I mean, there's so many studies. I would just encourage
But
everyone who's listening to go do your own research on this because
but
I
look, you
personally know how addictive sugar is. I would leave my house, steal money from my mom just to get my hit of sugar. And everyone who joins our program who's 100 pounds overweight experiences the exact same thing. So it's pretty an intense thing. It's not something. It's just like a little thing. It's like it's so big they have to detox off of it, and the detox off of sugar causes them physical body reactions because we're not meant to eat that kind of stuff. Like, our bodies don't like it. Clearly, that's why all the studies show sugar makes cancer grow. I mean, there's so much research. I can't, I
but
even went to a health institute where people were dying of cancer, stage 4. They completely eliminated it from their diet. They started eating sprouts and they were completely recovered afterwards. No
that is
cancer.
outrageous. That is, I'm sorry, but
I've seen it with my own eyes. It's not outrageous.
when we are talking about cancer and whether or not people are going to forego treatment in order, I know someone who chose to treat cancer by getting rid of sugar, and they're dying right now. So
I'm not saying everyone who does it won't die. Really depends on your
I
body.
know
But
that
this,
people are
I've
like
seen
5 times more likely to die if they.
I've seen so many people, not just one. I've seen thousands of people by now in my life at this health institute that I know, and completely got rid of sugar. Not only have I seen them recover their cancer, start walking again, I've also seen them reverse their rashes, their hives. I've seen them reverse so many diseases. I've even seen diabetes 2 reversal. I reversed my own PCOS, and I mean, sugar is not a friend. It doesn't have to be a friend. It's like, you never have to eat it again. And I just want to empower the people listening. If you have a sugar addiction, you can overcome it. It seriously, it ruined my life. I would literally leave my house and go to the bottom of my hill
So,
every day for my hit of sugar. I was so addicted. And now I'm 4 years sober of sugar, and I've never felt better in my life.
and I guess for me, I just like to be really accurate with what we know from research and what we don't know and how that research is interpreted. And it's like you mentioned there are like two camps. We have to look at all of it. Like, we have to look at all of the research and see why is like one set of research coming to a different conclusion than the other. So I don't think we can say like,
Because I'm pretty sure the research on the other camp was also bought by some companies who have some
but
shady funding going
but
on.
I'm
But I'd love to
sorry,
look into that.
you
If the
don't
public
know
wants to do
how
that, you can.
to interpret research. You don't know how.
Anyone can read research though.
No,
Anyone
they
can look at
can't.
the research papers.
No,
Oh,
you absolutely cannot. It is a skill. What
there
do you
are a
think people
lot
do in school? Like, what do you think people do?
there are a lot of people who can read research who don't go to school. So it's not, you don't have to go to school to be able to read research.
Do you think people should be doing surgery without going to school? Like, should people be
I
electricians
never
without
I
getting an
never said
education?
that. I was
Why do
just
you think
saying
that research
anyone
is so intuitive? Because it's not.
any
It's really just,
anyone
I can't do half of
anyone
it.
anyone can read research. Anyone can read a paper, which also means that anyone can physically read a research too.
But you don't know what
Depending
you
on
don't know. And so, like, you
sure.
have these limitations when you're reading it. You don't know, oh, but you know what? The testing that they're doing isn't validated to use for like whatever condition they're doing. Or like, there's so many times I have misunderstood research And
Sure.
it's so that's that personal, like, I have read, but I didn't know like the parts that I hadn't learned yet. And there's still things that I read and the methods section, I just like, what the hell does that mean? And that
Oh,
means that
there's a
it's
lot I
blind
don't know
spot.
too. I don't claim to know everything, but I'm just sharing from personal experience and from what I've seen in my own eyes. It's amazing, and a lot of people don't know that there are people out there who actually don't need to have sugar anymore. That it is possible. There are so many thousands and thousands of people who struggle with a sugar addiction so bad that they are 400 pounds, they are bedridden, and they can't stop eating it, and they don't even know that if they could get off of it, and there's a chance they would never think about it again. And I wish for people to be able to have that life, because I hated having to think about sugar all the time and leave the house and steal and beg, borrow and steal for sugar. I mean, that's ridiculous. No one should have to go through that and have that in their minds, because the food is so addictive. Sugar is so addictive, and they put it in everything. I mean, it makes perfect sense for the business model of the company, but it makes no sense for the human, which is why humans like me at 15 were like, "Oh, I need more, I need more." So I'm just there are so many women who've come to my mom and I who are like, I really struggle with sugar addiction and I don't know how to stop. They don't have sugar anymore. They don't need it anymore. And they make the goods that I was telling you about with no sugar. They use allulose, they use almond flour, they use oats, buckwheat, and they're so happy. And I'm so happy that I could make that change in their life so they could stop spending thousands of dollars on sweet treats, and they could stop not being able to walk up the steps. They could have no more anxiety and depression. I mean, that's amazing. All
So
through not eating sugar.
do you think that like switching the corn syrup and Coke to cane sugar is a win?
That is a step up, which is why we call it step it up. You know, we go from corn syrup to cane sugar to brown sugar to coconut, coconut to maple, and that's how we get people down. Some people can't just go cold turkey sugar. Okay, if you can't, let's start looking at what you can do. If you can't do corn syrup, let's try cane. Then you go from cane to brown. Like, that is a step, but most people, they do need a cold turkey. And I'm like all for it. I'm like, I can help you because I've done it and it's amazing. It changes your life. It changes your skin. It changes your PCOS. I mean, I've experienced it and I've seen women experience it. And I'm like amazed at how the human body can heal. It's incredible to me.
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts have come up. Um, so one, it sounds like you have like definitely like a cynical view of corporations, which I think is something that like we agree on.
Again, I'm not like a corporation expert. I am not an expert in politics. Like, I'm not getting into the politics of these things. I'm really here to help the human meet its best potential. I'm here to help the women who are addicted to sugar get off of sugar.
You are
That's like,
platforming a political movement that you don't understand.
it's not political. Health is not political. I don't know how many
MAHA
times
is RFK Jr.'s. That's the Make America Healthy Again movement is a right wing movement. It is
okay,
a
so
political movement. It's public health.
walking, eating whole foods, gardening, farming, and cooking whole foods at home, these things are not political. That's just not political.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we'll like agree on that, but I do think that it's tough. We're making big judgments based on like our worldviews. And for me, that's why like personal experience is great, but it can't be how we make decisions. And that's why I think like synthesizing a lot of information is, and like having a lot of experts collaborate together in order to figure out how to promote health is important, because we all have different experiences, and like what causes one person's obesity is not the same for another person. And so we need people to have higher level thinking and not just like making recommendations about what worked for us.
Can I'm just curious. I just one more question about this whole obese thing. I'm wondering, if you're obese, if you see someone obese and you think they're beautiful, if they told you that you looked like them, would you think that you looked beautiful?
So I think that our beauty is a societal construct, and I have been taught through society that like beauty is thinner, and that impacts me.
What if that was like actually true that being thin is actually beautiful and being overweight is not beautiful, because being overweight means you're not healthy, which isn't beautiful, and being thin and healthy is beautiful because, like, by nature you can't like bear children if you're not thin and healthy. Like, that's a sign like you cannot have kids because you are overweight and you will
But
give
if you're
future
too
children
thin, you
disease.
can't. It's you're more. If you're too thin, you can't bear children. And a lot
Yeah.
of people we put on magazine covers are too thin to have children.
Well, now they're too fat, so that's a new problem we
Do
have,
you
right?
really think that there are more obese people than
Yeah.
like thin people on
Oh
magazine covers?
yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I do.
Do you think that we should limit like anorexic women from being on covers? Like, where is it only one side?
Anything, yeah, like unhealthy, like should just not be a thing. We should not be having like anorexic like woman dying. Like, that's not something we should have on the front cover of Vogue. And we got to get rid of the morbidly obese woman on the front cover of Vogue because they're promoting that obesity and gluttony, which I don't want either. I don't want anorexia and I don't want gluttony and obesity. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like,
I guess for me, it's just a very like complicated topic. Like, I don't know that I have a yes or no answer for you. I think that it's just like this very gray, nebulous. Like, this is
I feel like
tricky.
you answered it though. You were like, "Yeah, I would not think that it's a nice thing if somebody said that I look like my overweight friend. Like, that's not a nice thing." And a lot of women feel like that, but they're afraid to say it. So this is why I'm saying this, because it's like, you'll tell your overweight friend she's beautiful, but if she tells you that you look like her, then, oh, all of a sudden we're like, oh, we don't want to look like that. And that just shows the truth. Like, our bodies physically know that obesity is not beautiful. So I think we should all be okay to admit obesity is not beautiful. We shouldn't be celebrating it.
We can challenge societal constructs and say, well, why do I feel that way? Am I like worried about my body because of health? Am I worried about it because of judgment? Because I don't want to be ostracized? Because, like we have to really question. And I think sometimes it could be about health. Sometimes it could be, just like we have to question that. And just boldly saying our thoughts isn't always helpful. Like,
I think it's helpful. I mean, a girl who joined our program, she said, I saw your video. I thought being obese was beautiful. She joined our program and she's now down 110 pounds naturally in like 9 months, healthy. She's like, she reversed her PCOS. She doesn't have anxiety or depression. She didn't take any meds for it. She's off sugar. She is not addicted to food anymore. She doesn't think about it all the time. And I'm like, I can't believe that I got to impact that woman's life in that way. Like, she can walk up the steps now. She can run. She's running. I mean, it's like amazing to see like the human body do this. And to me, that's what it's about at the end of the day, getting back to healthy. Because the truth is, when you're obese, you don't feel good. You don't recognize yourself in the mirror. And it's not what the body's not supposed to be that big. Our bones are not meant to carry that much weight. And that's why I'm like, it's not beautiful. And that truth some people need, because they have been so brainwashed by this movement that says it's okay, that says it's healthy, that says it's fine. And it's totally not fine. And so if I can touch anyone with that truth, then I'm like so happy. And I am so happy that this lady in our group, she's down 100 pounds. I'm like, I couldn't be prouder of her.
so I think there are some really high impact things that impact health, right? Access to food and healthcare are some of the biggest impact things. I mean, I feel like we are focusing on a topic that doesn't make a huge difference while catastrophe is occurring in all of the things that matter.
It's more, to me, it's more like people don't realize how much this is impacting young girls online. They don't realize how much is impacting older women, like this woman I'm talking about. She's 30. She's 30 years old and she's being impacted by the body positivity movement. So it's like a bigger deal, and it's such a big distraction online that a lot of people don't know. I mean, even registered dietitians don't know. And some of them have even been inside of it like, hey, eat whatever you want, you're gorgeous. Some doctors and registered dietitians even go as far to say being obese is healthy, being morbidly obese is healthy, which I'm just like,
I
please
don't think
stop.
that you're interpreting some of that the way that it
I mean,
is.
I have the videos on my phone, so I mean, I can always pull those up. But I mean, I don't have the ability on this live platform right now to show
Sure.
you the videos. But
I
another
think,
time if you come to LA.
and I don't know that I'm like, I don't fully like the HAES movement, the health at every size movement. I think that there are strong limitations to that. I'm not really like, I for me, it's about promoting health at any size. It's not necessarily saying you can be healthy at any size, because I think at
But
some point we get to a point where that's not true.
promoting health at any size would indicate that you are promoting health at any size, meaning 500 pounds, and 100 pounds. And like clearly, as you mentioned earlier, that is not something you're in support of. So,
I'm definitely right. So supporting health in the same way for like I don't want to stigmatize.
but Susanna, if you see a 400-pound woman, are you not going to say anything to her? You're just going to, like, as a registered dietitian, you're going to see a 400-pound woman and just walk right by, not help her at all. You have the tools to
Are
help
we in
her.
the mall? Are we in
Yeah,
clinic?
you're in the mall, you're in the store,
What am I going to say that she doesn't know?
She
People are
might not
aware.
know, right? You said people don't have education, so she
How
might
am
not
I?
know. You could give her a guide, you could give her a booklet, I don't know.
I don't think that I could make a meaningful change in
Would
5
you give
seconds
her would
of
you at least
shopping.
give her would you at least give her your number in case she needed some advice?
Um, I guess I've learned the hard way that unsolicited advice is not
But it's
helpful.
not
And
unsolicited advice
it
to be
doesn't
like,
mean that yes, if going to a person in a shopping mall and telling them, hey, did you know you're 400 pounds?
no, it's not. No, no. I just mean like you become friends with them and then you get their number and maybe possibly help them down the line because you care and you're a registered dietitian and you know everything about, nutrition apparently.
Well, I don't. And I think that's like part of it is acknowledging like these limitations. I'm actually like, I don't consider myself a weight loss dietitian. Um, Obviously it's a huge weight loss is always something that's like happening. Like it's, so we're talking about that comes into play for like every patient I see is whether they're like too small, too big. Like that's always on the table. But my main goal is usually I'm talking about other things. I'm talking about metabolic disorders or picky eating or something. So I don't know that I would even be the best person to help a 400-pound person lose weight, you know?
I mean, I'm glad you can acknowledge that. That's good information for the public to know. I think that's important. I do.
I think like scope of practice is important even within like I work for a children's hospital and like pediatrics is already a specialty, but even within the hospital there are like 22 different nutrition subspecialties. Um, I'm in two of them. So
Okay.
like there's so many things that I can't provide the best information on. I can try
Mhm.
to learn, but like I'm not in the like pediatric weight loss clinic, which is why I don't really know about like whether like I don't my opinion on Ozempic is half formed, you know. It's not the opinion people should necessarily be looking to. Um and that's why I'm kind of gray and hazy about it.
All right. Well, this was a good interview. I feel like we covered a lot of good topics. Is there anything else you would like to leave our audience with, or any last statements you'd like to make?
Yeah, I think that our overall overall goals are the same. We want people to be healthy. How we get there, I mean, I really think it's important to be strategic about this and to understand what we are voting for because policies make a much bigger impact than like we have to do this together. We have to do this as a community. This isn't rugged individualism. Like it's important to take care of yourself, but we have to do this as like a nation, and that means policy and that means knowing understanding it. That's to me what's really important.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for having the courage to come and
Yeah,
share
I
your
appreciate
bold
it.
opinions.
Yeah, thank you
I'm
for having
so
me,
glad.
truly.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad we had this conversation. For our audience out there, comment down below your favorite part of the interview, what you got from it. You can check out your social medias. You want to tell them your social medias so they can follow you and find you?
I'm Susanna, Susana dot Ritchey, Ritchey dot RD on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads.
Amazing. Wonderful. All right. Well, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We will see you all the time. If you want to join our Women's Accountability Group, you can click the link in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching.